Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Looking a little frazzled today, but yesterday was a very frazzling day. Before I get started, I'm Abby Haggard. This is my little corner of the world with my frizzy hair because it's raining out there. And I want to thank a lot of people on LinkedIn who are joining and signing up and commenting, and a lot of people on Facebook. And just so many wonderful changes that have taken place. We now have 6,000 followers on Facebook. Oh my gosh. We have some interest from across Canada and the USA. And I want to give a shout this morning because I had the most fun yesterday afternoon. I got to go to Minnesota vicariously because so there's a great guy. His name is Dustin Wilms, and he is the on-air guy and the producer guy for an interesting syndicated radio show. It's called The Five Count, and it's in Minnesota. I'm gonna do the call letters and the numbers. Okay, so The Five Count is heard in Mankato and in Austin, Minnesota. The Mankato is KMSU FM 89.7, and in Mankato, it's KMSK 91.3. So there you go, Dustin. We had the best chat. We were talking about all things children's entertainment and how on earth did I end up doing that. And then, out of the clear blue of the western sky, he suddenly said, "So talk to me about Pivotry in motion." And I said, "Pardon?" And he said, "No, I want to hear what's going on. This is very interesting. I'm watching your ABCASTs, and tell me what this means." And so I was flabbergasted and thrilled. And I said, "You're talking about me in Minnesota where all of the best Vikings came to live? All righty then." And so I kind of dived into it a little bit with him. And he had a lot of good questions, very curious, understood it like that, because most people in show business, in the people business, tend to understand how we flip and shift, right? Good morning, Freddie. And so he was on it. He was on it immediately. And I said, one of these times, I know there's a time difference in a big way, but one of these times, let's see if we can somehow get you talking to me from where you are on one of my ABCASTs. Let's talk about, the difference in the generations, the difference in how we look at entertainment, and the difference in how we see ourselves, I think might be very cool. And he was just sort of gobsmacked for a second. And he said, yeah, I'm crazy to say no. So anyway, you're on the hook now, Dustin. And I want to thank you again. It was just the best time ever. So there we go. There's another thing that's happening, that has been happening. We have some lovely, exciting news to share about our Miami-based client, Maggie. And that is, it looks like, on the strength of all of her really smart ideas in a new business, it looks like we're going to have to put a book together for her. It looks like there is something that needs to be said that people are really struggling to hear. And third time's a charm. My very good friend, indie filmmaker Richard Groen, who is in Ottawa. Good morning, Robert. Good morning. My goodness. That's been a while. My very good friend Richard Groen, who is a filmmaker, indie filmmaker in Ottawa, and has other things that he delves into, decided a couple of years ago that he needed to write a book. Mostly he writes screenplays and then they become movies. And this book is an homage to his parents, who lived through the war in Europe, the Second World War in Holland. And when they were able to leave, they came to Canada. And Richard said that it had always been his plan to thank them in the only way he could conceivably do, which was by telling the kind of story that would echo the time they were living in. And we began to talk about it a year and a half ago. And then I got sidelined, he got sidelined, things got busy. And then we revisited it a few weeks back, and he said, "Do you think this is the time?" And I said, oddly enough, Richard, I think this may be one of the best times ever to talk about the ripple effects of war, and the unintended outcomes and the collateral damages that don't take place on the front lines. I think that the timing wasn't good a year and a half ago. I think it's brilliant now because people, our living generations don't have a memory of anything this pervasive, and I think they should understand that this is not the first time. And by doing that, by saying that, it doesn't mean life is doom and gloom. It means that we come back, we come out, we pop up on top, and we carry on. So he sent me over the manuscript where we had left it, and I've got my business partner Gary looking at it too, because Gary's got a military background. And I said, let's try and knock this one out of the park. So all of a sudden, we've got things perking up with Pivotry and the Lion Effect. We've got Miami calling in. We've got Minnesota calling in, and we've got a filmmaker saying we're back. So busy times on the 15th floor here. And with that said, I came up with an idea the other day, and I laughed really hard when the word popped into my head. I was texting with Chris Brogan this morning. She said, name dropping shamelessly. Chris Brogan, who is a multi-time New York Times bestseller, who famously wrote the book Trust Agents. And I thought he was trying to tell people to put your faith in an agent. And his reply was, not a verb. And we're still friends. Anyway, he and I were chatting very, very briefly this morning because he went down a communications path, and suddenly realized he didn't like it as much as he thought he would. And so he found a different path to accomplish the same thing. And I said, your timing is always impeccable, Chris, because I'm talking about that today. I'm talking about the way we kind of gullible ourselves into thinking we don't have options. And I can't think of a better time than right now to have that conversation. So cheers. Oh, and one other shout out. I took my Copper Beast girl to get her new spring summer shoes on. And while I was sitting at the car dealership for, ever, because they check this and check that, chap came in, sat down. We started talking. And it turned out that we knew of the however many people he mentioned, we appeared to both know about 80% of them. So it's one of those things. He said, you don't happen by any chance to know? And I said, oh my God. And people coming to sit in the lounge realized they were interrupting some kind of turning of the sod thing here. Walked over and sat down. So I want to say a good morning to Rick Logan and a thank you on air for a wonderful 2-hour car wait. Best car wait ever. So thank you, sir. All right, down to business. Thank you for my smiles in the 80s. Oh, Robert, if you can make people giddy just for a blink of an eye, every day feels a little bit more fun. And that's really what we all tried to do. And I'm so glad it worked for you. Thank you for the shout out. This, by the way, who am I talking to? If you're not aware, I get comments coming up beside the screen, and I like to say, you are seen, you are heard, you are valued. So this morning, the theme for this morning is a term I invented. It just sort of popped into my head. There's a guy in the back. Who is the clever one, and he just sends out things for me to say, and so usually I just say them without thinking, and quite often they're brilliant, and then I of course take the credit until it's his third cousin who can't get a job subbing in for him, and then I open my mouth and I think, the hell did I just say? Anyway, this was the bright guy's invention. The term is Trojan Horsery, and of course I'm playing on sorcery. Trojan horse event, if it's not immediately a pop-up on your radar. It's a legend about the ending of the 10-year war between the Greece and Troy. and back in the mists of time. And they had gone on and on and on, back and forth for 10 years, and they were equally matched, and neither one was going to give in. And then the Greeks had an idea. And what they did was they built this enormous wooden horse, large enough to put several of their warriors in. And they wheeled the horse up to the edge of the drawbridge to the moat of the castle, or the village, the town, I guess. And yes, of the city of Troy. And then they left, and they got in their boats and they sailed away. And of course, the people looking, the people watching, the guards on the ramparts said the Greeks are leaving. They're in retreat. And when they looked and saw this massive horse, there was a great deal of confusion. And some of the people said, it's a trick, burn it. But the king believed otherwise. The king believed that what the Greeks had done was they had admitted defeat. And in their admission, they had left behind this offering to the gods for a safe journey across the sea home, and a tribute to Troy for their superior manpower, their superior weapons, their superior fighting strength. This was what the king believed. And because the king believed it, and enough people decided to agree with the king, the dissenting voices were drowned out. And the moat and the gates and everything was opened, and the wooden horse was pulled inside, and the gates were closed. And then everybody, had a lovely time. And then when they went to sleep in the dead of night, the warriors inside the horse came out, opened the gates, and signaled to the Greek fleet that had turned around and sailed back. And then all the Greeks came in the night and attacked Troy while it slept. And so the Trojan horse became synonymous for many years as an exercise in duplicity, an exercise in gullibility, an exercise in fool me once, an exercise in, oh, look, and diversion. And what I have seen very recently in working with Maggie, who is a senior analyst with a huge organization in the United States. Good morning, Eddie. Good morning. And hang on, here is what's this. I'm just going to do this and go here and block that. Sorry. And yes, is this a recording? What's this? And a blacklist. Yeah, we got a couple of them. How interesting. Okay, we got rid of those. And we got rid of this. There we go. There we go. All right. So what we have now is we have everyone who should be here, and other people coming, because they said, oh my God, I missed you on Tuesday and I wanted to check in. And by the way, the reason for missing Tuesday was we had a very important errand we had to run, and we couldn't reschedule. And it was the only time we could sit down with the people. So we took advantage of it. And my apologies for the last minute cancellation. It happens very seldom. I think it's happened 3 times, maybe 4, in the 460 episodes that we've done, 461. And one was hospital visits, one was moving from one city to back home, and a couple of others were health related. So my apologies. Anyway, when I came up with the term Trojan Horsery, what I have been doing for the last little while, you have a caption on the screen. What is the caption on the screen? I can't see it. If you have a caption on the screen, it might be yours, Eddie. I don't know. Is this a recording? Oh, how do I get rid of that? Hide it. Oh, thank you, Eddie. Thank you. Tech support, Eddie Flies. So what we are talking about today is the willingness people have to buy in without doing due diligence for any number of reasons. That whole thing about instant gratification, that whole thing about everybody's doing it, that whole thing about gotta have, gotta do, gotta be. And the other then is indifference, one way or the other, willfulness, and then gullibility. And I think it's important for those conversations to address them, to talk about them, and to remind people that all of us aren't always here with the same objectives. And all of us aren't always here with the same passion, commitment, and purpose. And because we're not the same, and because we can only see the world through our own eyes, through our own point of view, it is very easy. Just taking a very quick check to make sure. Hang on a second here. This is very rude and I apologize, but there was something I was just looking for. Okay. We are not paying attention enough. And the world is moving at a faster pace than we ever imagined, than we really ever had the wiring in our brains for. And so a lot of the time we're playing catch up. The number of times, which is all of them, by the way, the number of times I have started my podcast and right off the top, there has been an interesting glitch that wasn't the same as any of the previous glitches. And I have, when we've come back from the glitch, looked suitably dumbfounded, which fortunately is in keeping with the mom character, but it wouldn't buy me a lot of votes if I was trying to do something really seriously important. And so the dichotomy there, the confusion there of being good at something and then being remarkably not good at something else simultaneously, it's a never-ending source of communication, confusion, and enjoyment issues, right? So there is an odd phenomenon in our brain, back of the brain. If you hear a noise, loud noise, frequent noise, it becomes something we pay attention to in a different way than the other noises. We sit up. What's that? It is the reason that fire engines and ambulances and police cars have sirens, because sirens don't sound like horns, and they don't sound like trucks, and they don't sound like trains, and they don't sound like boats. They sound different, and they're intrusive, and they're grating on the ears. And the reason for that is because it gets our attention. We don't numb them out unless it was all day, every day. And then it just becomes the fabric of our lives, right? The backstory of our lives. So when people realize that this just in, breaking news, with an urgency, with a sharp-edged delivery that isn't like the other stuff, people are startled. They blink. They what? And if you hit people with more and more and more of it, gradually our hypervigilance, our stay safeness, our survivor brain just stops remembering to rest. It just never entirely quiets because it's jumpy. It doesn't know what's coming next, if it's coming next. And that is a calculation that a lot of people do to get people so exhausted, so distracted, so disoriented that they're not paying attention to what they're really seeing. And it's an insidious, manipulative technique. And people use it because it works. And are they proud of it? Maybe not. Are they proud of it if it works and the only thing they care about is the bottom line? Maybe so. However, and this is the whole point of the slight vagueness of Trojan Horsery, it only works if both sides buy in. You can wheel as many large wooden horses full of soldiers up to as many gates as you like, but if no one says, "I wonder what that is," you wasted your time. Because it has to trigger enough curiosity for people to venture out and check it out. It has to be interesting enough. And then strategically, it has to flip the switch on someone's internal story. In the days when tributes were paid, and it was a given, the size of the tribute established the size of the honor you were bestowing, the size of the rank, the importance of the person receiving. It was code for "we are not worthy." It still happens today. If somebody gifts you a 3 times used pony, and I mean the car, as opposed to a brand new BMW, the intention behind it is perceived differently. Now, if the person had not many resources and that used car was the only thing they had, that is still an enormous gift. It's just a question of finances there. So when you see somebody making a huge effort to get your attention, and a huge effort to tell you how lovely you are, and a huge effort to fuss and flatter, you can do a couple of things. And the big deal is always to ask, what's the occasion? As opposed to why me, which sounds a little bit off. What's the occasion? And if somebody says, well, there's no occasion, I saw this and I thought of you and I said, why not? In which case there's still a part of you that thinks, well, thank you. But there's still a part of you thinking, I'm waiting for the other shoe. That's a lot. That's a big thing. And I love you. It's still a big thing. Because we're not used to people being that generous. People can't necessarily afford to be that generous. And more importantly, especially in the last 20 years, we're not as together with each other as we used to be. And we don't necessarily celebrate the kinds of fondnesses that we used to, in the ways that we used to. You know, instead of sending a letter or a handwritten card, it's an email or a text. We get somebody to do a virtual card. We get somebody to deliver the flowers. We do a FaceTime, because our lives are busy and we are far apart. So when somebody goes the extra mile to make a big deal, you want to know what's in it for them, because what's in it for them will tell you what's truly in it for you. And I don't mean what's in it for them, what's their hidden agenda. You want to know their purpose. You want to understand, as my grandmother used to say, who are their people? What do they do? And this is the only way we can know what they mean. And so this is a translation of social niceties that we don't take the time to do anymore. We don't take the time to check credentials, to fact check. And in a time when there is so much artificial stuff going on, that's a little silly, because it leaves us open to making decisions that if we had taken more time, we would not have made. So Robert, what do you? It seems to be the internet is both a blessing and a curse. It has brought us closer together while simultaneously pulling us away. Absolutely, Robert. Absolutely. And in a funny way, it is almost like a bouncing ball, because we are farther away. We need the technology to bring us together because it is technology bringing us together and bringing so many different things simultaneously together. When we are together, we're distracted by all the other grabs for our attention. I myself just did it now. The phone pinged. We had that meeting, and I wanted to check to make sure everything was okay. And I apologized. Nevertheless, in a previous time, there wouldn't have been another phone on my desk. I wouldn't have been doing the video and having that opportunity. So I am playing fast and loose, blurring the lines of social acceptable behavior. And we all do. So for me, the concept of Trojan Horsery is an unstated, unspoken agreement to buy in before the facts are in, to pledge publicly before we vet our sources, to leap without looking. And it has always been dangerous to do that. Gary has a great story of thinking he's stepping over a small creek, and actually he stepped off the side of a ravine in the dark and survived. For the first few seconds, the votes weren't in whether he was going to survive. And why did that happen? It happened as a result of expediency. Hurry up. Are you sure it's okay? Yeah, hurry up. And so then we hurry up. And then we fortunately live to regret it because the landing was painful. It's not the fall, it's the sudden stop and the things along the way. And so here we are at a time when people are investing. Not only, good morning, Miss Maggie, good morning, just popping in. You've been in and out of meetings and on my way to the next one. Good heavens, breathe, take that 5-second moment, right? We'll chat later. Thank you. So we are talking today about people investing more than they have in a possibility all over the place. Any news medium you want to use, any way of getting information in that you care to follow. The stories are everywhere that people are putting everything behind a fingers and toes crossed, want to do, gotta have, gotta be. And now, after the initial, it was quiet for the first year or two. All of a sudden, the momentum is building. All of a sudden, they can't resist leaking it to this media person and that media outlet. And now we're all hearing about it. We're all hearing about the things that are working, not working. All of the oops things going on. All of the sources, significant, important sources, saying, you know what, double check about their own stuff in print, on reputable platforms. And you say to yourself, when the owner says, don't turn your back, check for your ring and your watch, that's a tell of some kind. What is it? It's the owner having an attack of integrity. It's the owner saying, I gotta say this. And certain members in the inner circle saying, no, you don't, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And others saying, yes, you do. And then the CEO makes the call and says it. So we are hearing all kinds of things that are yay, good, and no, bad. And are you kidding me? Unbelievable. And the headlines are feel like every 15 minutes, because that is what the news feeds are like now, thanks to CNN and Ted Turner all those decades ago. This just in, breaking news didn't exist the way it does now before Ted Turner and CNN. And now there is no other kind. When I was talking to Dustin yesterday about You Can't Do That on Television, and the fact that every piece of every episode was actually like a quilt, little squares that are sort of 30 seconds long, each little clip, each little sketch, 30 seconds long with a full beginning, middle, and end, like they didn't segue. And there was a blink, and he said, you were TikTok before there was TikTok. And I said, right. We broke the trail. We proved that people loved snackable information. And then the floodgates opened. And now there are reels and shorts and this and that. But before all of that, it was You Can't Do That on Television. And back in the day of the early movies, you would have a mini movie in front of the real movie, and it was called a short because you wanted to give people some anticipation before the main attraction. You Can't Do That on Television was all of that. The introduction to the opposites, and the abnormals, right? Today, we are just looking for that hit, that sizzle. We're just looking for the quick laugh. We don't want the long lead up. We don't want to hear the full story. It's like stand-up comedy is, toss the ball, hit the ball, toss the ball, hit the ball. There's no rally back and forth. It's just set it up, follow through, set it up, follow through. This is what people are used to because they don't feel that they have time anymore. They don't feel they have time anymore to invest and get it right, get the full understanding. They just want the shortcut, the synopsis. And this is what this is about today, because the shortcut synopsis is helpful if it's true. The shortcut synopsis, cut the line, buy now, is an awesome deal if the deal is real. The challenge that we don't pay attention to is what happens when the deal isn't real. Did we take the time to find out if we're on the hook? Are we the one left holding the bag? And if we are, what's in it? And how much is that going to set us back? We're not asking ourselves any of those questions. We're not asking anyone any of those questions. And, Maggie, who just popped in just now, went to this huge conference, and oh my God, half the place was eager for the next new thing, and the other half was worried about what the next new thing would bring. And she said it was like walking in and out of two separate realities that were woven together. And both of them, the yays and the nays, both of them are acting on what is called a knee-jerk reaction, because they're just going with their gut. And that hit, that adrenaline hit, to either run to or run from or freeze and hide and hope it goes away. None of those are solutions. So this is the surround for Trojan Horsery. I love the idea of horsery, sorcery, because there is an element of sorcery in it. And the sorcery in it is to get that person on my side, that person willing to buy in without enough information to make it wise. And so that's the whole backstory. We're willing to buy in without taking the time to make sure it's wise. And we're willing to buy in because we're afraid of being left out. We want the next new thing and we want it now. And we don't want to be the guy who got it last. Even though at the first launch is when the bugs are discovered. And it's always better to wait until that happens. You know, when a restaurant opens and it says opening soon, we're hiring, you don't want to rush in with your resume now. You want to wait a few weeks so that when they hired the first people and realized that some of the people they hired aren't appropriate and you show up, they'll be more grateful that you did, because they know firsthand in real time what a mistake looks like. And they'll say, why didn't you come 2 weeks ago? And the answer should be, I felt you probably needed time to work your way through your choices. And when you realize that some of them were blown out of proportion, you now have the opportunity to think again. And I wanted to be first in line for the think again moment, because you know now what you don't want. You didn't before, and now you do. And so if we can give ourselves permission to be patient, if we can give ourselves permission to read the room, we're not going to be left behind. These massive data centers that they're building, they don't go up overnight. They're not pop-up shops. There's a ton of prep work that has to be done. And that takes time. It's not computer generated, poof, there it is. And so we can decide that we're thinking about saying yes or no, and then do our due diligence. So how do we protect ourselves against? Because this is a simple win that I want to bring us to. Gary and I were talking about it the other day, and I said one of my favorite memes that I saw many years ago on Facebook, and I don't bring it up very often because, you know, you don't want to overdo it. And it goes like this. It's just text. There's no image. And it says, if you say the word oranges slowly enough, it sounds like gullible. Did you do it? Did you do it just now? And then did you realize? when I did it to Gary, he shook his head and he said, I was doing it. He said, I knew you were setting me up, but I was still trying. I was still trying. And I said, I'm here all week. Try the veal. It's a wonder we're still partners. So the thing is, why did the king of Troy believe that that horse was a tribute? He was a wise man. He had held off the Greeks for 10 years of difficult strategic battles. What pushed him over the edge? What was it? And no one will know, of course. It's a legend. It could very well be that a part of him wanted it to be over, wanted to be able to end it with dignity, saving face. And that could easily have been the little voice nudging him to say, no, it's a tribute. They've gone, they fled, they have retreated, and they've left this to honor us. They aren't here. They aren't here. Clearly, this is meant for us. He was selling himself on the idea that it was not only safe to do, it was the wise thing to do. I mean, he not only got himself to say, bring it in. He also got himself to say, and we're going to have a parade first thing tomorrow. Exactly, Eddie. Exhausted from all the, and in a moment of I don't know, yes, or arguing with the naysayers, And he found himself digging a line in the sand and saying, I am your king. And so in a lot of cases, then the gullibility is driven by ego. Once I say yes, yes means yes. And now, unless you're willing to be humiliated and willing to eat humble pie, you keep saying yes in spite of your best instincts. And we've all done it. There was a famous interview with, the fellow who kited all the checks, Frank Abagnale, not the Great Imposter. That was a movie played with Tony Curtis. The Frank Abagnale story was predicated. His cons were predicated on plausibility. He would dress the part. If he wanted to cash a check, and he was able to cash and able to forge a check with a specific corporate logo on it, then he would find a way to appear to be just, obviously, this is my work, this is what I do, and can I cash this here? Not can I cash this, but can I cash this at this branch? And because he looks the part, he walks, he's talking it, he's doing it, easily plausible. And he was handsome and had charisma. Easy, go to a busy bank, busy. And wait in line, and then be just charming and patient, not complaining. And so for the busy teller, who would say, normally I have to check this, but you have identification? Oh, yes, of course. And she's looking at the line and somebody was all complaining. And he would say something like, listen, take your time. Take your time. This is your job. He would stroke them, not in a way to flatter them, but to calm them down so that they would feel good about doing a kindness in return, and therefore convince themselves, not what could it hurt, but how could it be otherwise than true. So those Trojan Horseries are skillful. The thing is, he wouldn't have gotten away with it if the people on the other end of the equation weren't willing to buy in. And so, as Eddie was saying, we are both complicit. It is our job to check ourselves, to check our sources. Take that second and say, why am I doing this? I don't normally do this. Why am I doing it? If it's an, oh, what the hell, all right. Why am I doing that? What is that doing for me? And if it changes things, then what happens? If it goes either way, if it goes well, what happens? If it doesn't go well, what happens? We don't take the time to ask those questions now. We feel that we're in a hurry. And this is part of it. I read an article yesterday, and then I reached out to Maggie to verify it. And I said, the article was that increasingly people who are working with AI, and it's their job to use their laptop, use their computer to enable the AI technology to download the information. Well, it's 5 o'clock and I have to go home now, but the download isn't finished and the clock is ticking. So these people are carrying their laptops with them with the lid open just enough that the Wi-Fi signal remains live and the download can continue. Okay, what's wrong with that, Ab? Well, they're going to airports and they're going to public spaces where there's no secure area protecting the open Wi-Fi from potential hackers. You can't put a protective sleeve over the laptop. In the first place, it closes the laptop. In the second place, the sleeve is designed to cut the Wi-Fi. So whose bright idea is it to encourage that many people that it becomes a headline, to put the entire process at risk, because the AI is downloading proprietary, protected software. And hackers know it. In the race to hit the finish line, nobody's checking their mirrors. It is Trojan Horsery in living color in real time. And it's not going to help anyone when we hear, I told you so, because there's so much at stake now. So how do we fix it? Those are the stories. Those are the stories. Thank you, Abby. Now, how do we fix it? How we fix it is we decide to take that moment and ask why. Why am I doing it? What does it serve? Is the first question. And the second question is, what does it cost? What does it serve is the plus. What does it cost is the minus. Nobody's doing that math. Excuse me, not enough people are doing that math. And when we don't do that math, we open ourselves up to Trojan Horsery. And then we not only got injury, we got insult. And we have to live with it because it was our idea. Yay. So there's going to be a lot more on the concept of Trojan Horsery. There's going to be a lot more on, do we even remember why we decided yes in the first place? Are we the ones who are undermining ourselves? Are we perpetrating Trojan Horsery on our own lives? How could we possibly know? You're right, because we're standing too close. What we need to do is talk to a trusted advisor. Am I pitching us? Pivotry in motion, the lion effect? You bet I am. You bet I am. And the reason I am is that strength in numbers doesn't mean an army of soldiers facing outwards with their weapons drawn. Strength in numbers means engaging, collaborating, conspiring to succeed. It's interactive and it's active and it's paying attention. So those two questions. What does it serve? What does it cost? That's your hack. And it takes less than 5 seconds. And it could very well be the 5 seconds you need, that you regret if you don't take them. Is that a doom and gloom? No, no, it's wisdom. Measure twice, cut once. The Fram oil filter commercial, pay me now for the filter, pay me later for the engine. This is older than time. And we get so busy we forget. And one of the very, very special tools that Gary and I designed yesterday, I'm not going to talk about it today because it's been long and we have stuff to do, all of us, but we are going to be talking about it very soon. And it's very important. It's very exciting and you're going to love it. So when I leave you today, I want to say it's bigger than be good to you. It's bigger than that. And when I say be good to you, you deserve it. It's like, how are you? Fine and you. It's a thing we're not listening to. So I'm going to change it. And it goes like this. On the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how good are you to you? How much are you willing to invest in you. And then I want to hear the numbers. I think that makes more sense because most of the time we're not listening. Most of the time we're thinking we can take care of us later. And the fact is, there is only now. And after all of that, remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. Thank you for watching. Thank you for telling each other to watch, to remind each other to watch. Thank you for accepting my apology for Tuesday. Thank you for just checking in to see what on earth I'm up to today. We have some very exciting things happening this weekend, and we will be back next week, and I can't wait to share them with you. So in the meantime, without you, this is a rehearsal. I don't say that lightly. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.